Hello YouTube. I want to tell you a little bit about what the conditions are for your packages. As customers who ship through UPS, I am a former UPS employee, and the conditions inside the warehouse and in the trucks that transport your packages are often filthy. Our downstairs bathrooms in the warehouse would often get clogged up, and the floor drains would be clogged with dirt and particulate from the packages and from people tracking mud through the bathrooms. So the bathrooms would get flooded when the toilet would get clogged up, and the sewage would run out of the bathrooms into the warehouse floor. And we would track through it, and we would walk back into our work areas across what were very porous wood floors inside of the outbound trailers and aluminum floors inside of the brown trucks. And the floors in those trucks made of wood would become very stained and very, very filthy, especially in the older trailers where the finish was worn off of the floors. They would start out a golden brown color with a clear coat type finish on it, and they would end up being a dark brown to black or gray color after they became saturated with dirt and the finish on them wore out in the older trailers. And the outside of the boxes was so dirty after going through our conveyor system and being loaded through those trucks multiple times as the packages would make their way across the country that we would turn black. Our skin would turn black. Our hands and our arms and our t-shirts would turn black from just simply touching the surfaces of those packages as we were picking them up and unloading them from one truck into another, moving them from point to point. Packages would often be dropped on the floor of the warehouse itself, which was connected to those bathroom floors where the waste was being tracked around. And the floor, whenever we get a storm system, inside, the floor would get very wet because the humidity in the air would condense on the concrete, and the concrete would sweat terribly. And there would be this grayish black viscous mud-like substance along the track that the E-Reg carts would follow, which is a loop inside the hub. And they would cut through the parking lot outside, going in and out of bay doors on the building and running along this track that everybody had to walk down to get through the hub. And the trains would leave tracks through the building. That's how filthy the floor would be. When you get a UPS package, you need to consider that it might have been exposed to human waste. It might have been exposed to human urine or fecal matter. The drivers in the trucks are often so rushed that they have to pee in bottles, or they pee in the floor in the backs of the trucks where your packages are stacked, or they fall off the shelves. The drivers don't want to lose their jobs, and the company forces people to perform at ridiculous speeds so they don't even have time to stop to go to the bathroom. People are fiercely competing for those bid list positions for TCD, that's temporary cover driver and full-time driver. And they'll take all kinds of shortcuts from working off the clock to get their load ready before working in the hub or working out on their route to being in those bottles to avoid having to stop to take bathroom breaks when they're hydrating out on the route. The company is constantly pushing people to perform faster and perform better. And while if you stay on long term, you end up becoming pretty physically fit. It's a good weight loss regimen that intense labor is. It's not the most hygienic because the conditions that are created inside the hubs and the trucks and the low level of priority that UPS as a company gives to cleanliness, both in the facilities and in the trucks themselves. They actually passed a law that allows for commercial drivers to urinate in these bottles and dispose of that human waste in trash cans. Because not just for UPS drivers, but for many commercial drivers, this is an issue. They might need to take frequent bathroom breaks, and because of the nature of the occupation or the company's policies, they're not allowed to do that without penalty. So just be aware as a customer that the packages are being exposed to conditions where there is a high level of cardboard particulate and other types of particulate circulating around. Filthy surfaces, some surfaces that may have human waste on them, and a number of other hazards that I'm not going to list here because it's hard to tell exactly when a consumer package is going to encounter these situations, but you might even have a package that you get that looks like it's been partially dissolved or melted on a rare occasion. I actually saw that myself when I was working there. We'd have consumer packages that were damaged by bleach spilling out of one cardboard package onto many other packages and partially or fully dissolving the affected packages with contents inside, documents destroyed, family photos, all kinds of stuff, payroll. And that's what the company doesn't want you to know. We had an Overgoods area. That's what they call it. That was the area for asset recovery and damaged products, damaged goods. Packages would get crushed or broken open, and the consumer contents that were inside, and I mean, it was all kinds of stuff. Anything and everything you can imagine would fall out of these packages. Bags would burst, suitcases, high value packages sometimes, everything. Anything that gets shipped, I guarantee you at some point it's been busted open or something. Not every box gets busted, but the percentage of them that do covers everything across the spectrum. UPS ships all kinds of stuff. Can't even imagine it. And in my time there, I worked in Overgoods, and I saw some of the stuff that gets busted open. Sometimes it's very expensive or important stuff, legal documents, government identification, people's diplomas, their college degrees, visa paperwork, precious metals, game systems, TVs, you name it. But what you need to realize is that if you ship with UPS, you're going to be dealing with a lot of risk. Believe it or not, FedEx or the U.S. Postal Service are actually a lot more reliable, and they take much better care of your packages. It's much less likely that you're going to receive a damaged parcel through FedEx or USPS. I'm telling you this objectively. You know, I saw, because I shipped with all these carriers a lot, and I've seen how they handle the goods. And UPS is by far one of the worst when it comes to handling people's goods. They throw the packages, they drop them, they kick them. There is such an intense pressure to perform at speed to move those packages as fast as possible. The company is pushing production all the time. And you get cussed out, you get warning letters, and they might even try to fire you when you move too slow. And so those consumer goods that get shipped through there get abused. They end up getting mistreated. There's mishandling occurring of people's mail happening at UPS hubs across the country and probably across the world. I know it's not like that everywhere, but with the company that I worked for over there, it was a huge problem. On a bad day, we would have hundreds of parcels that would show up in the damage control zone, asset protections, overgoods area, that we would have to try to determine, where did these goods come from, which package did they fall out of, who should we return them to, and we would have to, if we couldn't determine which package it came out of, we would have to box everything up. This wide assortment of miscellaneous items that had fallen out of people's boxes, consumer goods from corporations or to corporations, to private individuals from private individuals, all kinds of stuff. Every permissible combination you can think of. And these things would have to be packaged up and sent out to a corporate overgoods location, a warehouse that handles damaged goods recovery and repatriation of those goods back to the companies they came from. I think it was either Utah or Nevada, if I remember right, that UPS corporate overgoods was in, but I can't tell you just how many boxes that we'd have to ship off to corporate overgoods on a bad day. The workflow was enormous. It was so much that we would have to work 40 to 60 hours a week to have those items repackaged and to try to get them back in the right parcel that they came out of, and to forward them on and simply get them out of the warehouse, because anything that was left inside the warehouse had to be recovered. Any loose consumer goods that were in the warehouse had to be recovered and shipped off to corporate overgoods.